friends, it's Dr. Erica with Rosie Research back with another Tinkercad video for you. And I am super excited. We are in the middle of a geology and gemology unit. You can actually see a code block that we have another video for to make a 2D gem. And I thought that that would be great for the gemology, and I wanted to make a geode that would kind of light up for the geology part. So we're over in Tinkercad. You have to sign yourself in, and if you come down here on the left hand side, you can click code blocks and you can create a new code block with us, and we will make this as we go. So when this pops up, we hit new design, and I'm thinking it's just going to be sort of a square, and then we'll have triangles that radiate out that can fold up. And I'm doing this in 2 dimensions because if you are a patron of ours, we will actually print your 2D models and mail them to you. So we want to make everything in 2D. So I'm going to start by creating a new object, and I'm going to make this my triangle. And these are going to be the triangles that come off of it. And what's great is once I create this triangle, I can add copies of it in. So let's get a shape, and I will just take a roof, I think, over, and you can click it in. And you can sort of choose just a little bit, but not much about what it does. So we can hit run and we can see what this looks like. Now, immediately I know that I want it to sort of flip up and point north, south, east, and west. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to modify it by rotating it. And we can rotate it by 90 degrees and see what that does. That pops it up for us, which is great. And then I need to scale this. This is a little bit too tall for us. So we'll scale this, and if I scale it to 0.15 in Z, that gives me about 3 millimeters. And then I can also scale it in X and Y. So maybe I make it a little bit taller. And anytime you do this, you just want to check that it's doing what you want. I think I want to make it even taller than that, so let's put 4 here and see what that looks like. There we go, that's pretty great. Now, when we make these 2D things, we need to put some bevels on them so that they can fold up. And the way that we do that is we bring out a roof and we turn it into a hole. So instead of making it green right here, we can make it sort of invisible, and it's called a hole. And I can run this and it will now make both of those pieces. Of course, I'm going to need to flip this so that the point is pointing down. Alright, so I'm going to modify this, and I'm going to rotate it. There we go. And we can rotate it. I think we can do it by the y-axis. Let's see. Oh, perfect. I just need to go a little further, so I'll do 180 degrees. Alright, so now I need to lift it up somewhat because right now it's going all the way through my object. And then I also need to put it along this angle. So I can move this, and I'll put the Z as, let's see what happens if I put Z as 6. And that will just move that piece up some. Nice. Alright, and so now I need to find this angle here, and we can just do that by guessing. Go around the Z axis. Let's see, let's go for 10 degrees first, and we'll just hit run. And let's see. That's actually pretty close. We're gonna move it off to the side. And I can do that actually here. Let's see. Let's move it Y to -5. And see where that puts it at for us. Ooh, that just moved it taller. Oops, let's do X. There we go. And now I can see my angle slightly off, but actually, surprisingly, not too far off considering that we just guessed. And now, ooh, I'm getting further off, so we'll go the other direction. Let me get nice and close. And this is sort of a quick and easy way to do that. All right, so 13 degrees seems pretty much exactly what we want. I'm gonna actually lower it down a little bit because I want this tip to really bevel in. So instead of lifting it up by Z as 6, I think I'll do Z as 4. And you'll notice that I need to scale this because it's not reaching the whole length of my triangle. So we'll bring out a scale, and let's put the scale, yeah, let's put the scale right here. And let's scale the Y maybe by 2. And that should grow it the right direction for us. Just like that. That's looking good. So I'm gonna put it, I gotta move it a little bit still. It's not quite where I want it to be. Now as I do this every time, I'm just testing it. Let's get it right on the edge. We'll go in a little bit. Ooh, that's looking good. I see that my angle's not quite perfect. Let's see, let's try 14. You can get into little decimal pieces if you wanted to here. All right, and let's move our Y, which direction? Oop, that made it. Let's do -5. I'm gonna bring it down first, and then I'll deal with the X. Let's see. Maybe 0. We might just want, I think we just want 0 for Y. Let's try that. There we go. Oh, that looks great. All right, and I'm not too worried about this corner piece because we're gonna put a bevel on all of the sides of this. So that's one of them. And to create another one, I can just copy paste. And this one, I am going to rotate by -14 degrees, so the other direction. And you'll see that it'll come up the other way, and then I need to move it over here to X's +4 instead of X's -4. So I sort of flipped those guys around. That looks really good. And now I just need to put the one on the bottom. So I will copy and paste that one more time. And we don't need to rotate it, I don't think. Let's toss that. And let's see. Oh, we do. We need to rotate it. Well, Control Z undo that. We need to rotate it by 90 degrees. There we go. And now we just need to move this one in place. We don't need to scale it as much, so we can just leave that scale where it's at. And we're gonna move this over to X is 0. That should center it for us, yep. And then we need to move it up. So let's move it to 10 in Y. Oh, we need to go a little further up. Let's try 15. There we go. Oh, let's try 20. All right. Beautiful. All right, so now I have this, and you'll notice that when I group these, if I create this group, it will create this triangle with some nice bevels. I need to move it up just a little bit, make that just a slightly longer so that it can do a little bit of a better job on these corner pieces. So I'll scale my Y by maybe 2.2 in both of these. And we can see what that looks like. Does that go all the way a little bit more? We'll create our group so that we can see it a little better. Yes, that looks really nice. Now I am noticing I need to move both of these out a little bit. See how the bottom is hitting before I want it to hit. So instead of X is -4, let's try -5 and X is +5. There we go. Now we have this beautiful triangle for us. And the nice thing here is if I leave it ungrouped and I group it later, this bevel will also bevel the center piece of it. Now I have about a 45-degree bevel, so when I fold these up, I would get something that where these walls sort of go straight up. If I want to have it bevel more, I can change the scale in this X direction, and that will make it more of a bevel. So if I make X's, let's say 3 here, in all of these, it should give us more of a bevel. See how much wider these guys are? And let's create the group so that we can see what that looks like all together. And this allows it to sort of bend and fold a little bit more, which is nice. All right, so now that I have this, all I need to do is add in sort of a square or a rectangle and then put the other triangles around it. So we're gonna create a new object. And this object I'm gonna call my geode. right here. It's really not a geode, it's more like a crystal. I'm gonna call it a crystal. I feel like we're gonna make it glowy. It's gonna be amazing. So I'm gonna start off with a box. And I do wanna make sure that the bottom of this triangle, which is 20, lines up with the size of my box. So here I have 20 by 20, which will be perfect. I like to have a height of 3. And you'll notice that this will build right in there for me, which is great. I'm gonna leave this right in the center. And when I add my object in, I can move it into place. In fact, what I could do is I could move it into place now for one of the sides, and then I could use that, which will be helpful. So let's move this. And I need to move it by 10, 20, 30, 30. So let's move it by, x is 30 minus 30. And sometimes as we go around all of this, we mix up our x's and y's as we go. So, oops, let's delete that from 30. And we'll do 30 this direction. All right, so now we just want minus 30. Perfect. There we go. So now I'm actually gonna not create this group. Ooh, I'm curious if by not creating this group, oh, I don't know. This is actually new. We're gonna try it. I think if I don't create the group, it will do it all the way. So I think let's just leave this because I don't want to create the group. I want all of those negative holes in there. All right, so I'm gonna add this. We're gonna see if we can make an iterative loop. So we're gonna bring over this loop that says count with I. We're gonna go from 1, or you can go from 0. We're gonna go to up to 4. And we're gonna have to move it, and then we're also gonna rotate it. So let's see. You know, the easier way is probably just to move our box, actually. Let's run this. Let's move our box over, and that way we'll be in the right spot. So we'll move our box over in Y by 30. And that way we can keep all these holes that we've created, which will then go into the box. All right, so each time that I go through this loop, I want to make a copy of this triangle. I'm gonna make a copy of my triangle, and I want to rotate it, 90 degrees each time. So I'll hit rotate, and I'm going to rotate this around the z-axis by 90 degrees, but if I do that, it's just gonna rotate around its center point. So we can see what this looks like. You can see how it sort of rotated all around that center point. That's not quite what I want to do. I want to rotate from a pivot point, and that pivot is going to be right in the center of my square. And that is, let's see, 10, 20, 30, should be 30 in, I think that's the Y direction. So let's take a look and see what this looks like. So now I have 2 of them, and you'll notice that it built up a whole bunch in the same spot. And that's because I want to rotate by 90 degrees, but I want to rotate the next time by more than 90, or I want to kind of go in a circle. And the way I can do that is I'll do some math, and I want to do 90 degrees. So I'm going to multiply by 90, and I'm going to multiply that little counter I by 90. So the first time it goes through, it goes by 90, and then it'll go by 180, and then it'll go by 270. And I actually only need to go up to 3 here. So now if we run it, you'll notice that it plops them all around each other, which is pretty great. And we should be able then to just create a group, and all of the bevels will be there. It'll bevel in onto this. Ooh, okay, so it's not grouping this piece. So what we'll do, we'll go back to 4, and we'll create the group, and then we can delete. Let's delete our object, because then we don't want to see it, that object. So we'll delete the triangle when we're all done. We'll go through our process. We deleted the object, and now you can see that these pieces that are green will fold sort of straight up towards us. towards the sky, and we could, if we wanted to, add a fun little LED at the bottom. We could punch a hole in this red part so that you could have an LED stick through and light this up, and your CR 2032 would sort of be hanging out down here on the bottom. That's pretty easy to do. What we would want to do, if you decide you want to add an LED, you're going to add a cylinder. Now most LEDs are about 5 millimeters. I'm going to do like 5.3, just so it has a little bit extra. Some hot glue can hold that in there. It won't be too much extra that it's like a huge circle. But sometimes various printers are not perfectly accurate. We're going to make this a hole, and then we're going to obviously need to move this because we want to move it to the center of this. So we need to move it. Each one of these big boxes here is 10. So 10, 20, 30 in the Y. So we'll put 30 in our Y. We'll run it to see how it looks. That looks pretty great. And then we need to group this also. In fact, we'll just plop this piece of code right up here. And this is a great way to shorten your code by using this counting loop. Now I have a spot for my LED to hang out in. Well, that seems pretty big. So, oh, because it's the radius. We want to do let's do 2.6 as the radius, because I was thinking diameter. There we go, let's do this. Ah, much smaller, perfect. There we go, and so now we can print this item. If you're a patron of ours, we will print it and mail it for you. You can sign up at patreon.com/rosieresearch, and if you're a patron of ours, you're going to want to export it. So you come up here and you export, and you're going to export into a .stl file. Save that file with your name, and you can send it to us through Patreon, and we will get it ready for you. Thank you guys so much for joining us. It's been a ton of fun working in Tinkercad, and I hope that you've enjoyed these 2D to 3D projects. We'll talk to you soon.